Hey everyone, Ivy League Gaming here, and today we're playing Dragonheir Silent Gods. For today's video, we're going to take a look at Elminster Omar. We're going to see what we really think of this kit. Is it solid, or is it not good enough? Alright, so I had actually already recorded a video giving my opinion of all the skills, where he's good, his inspirations, etc. But I think I was a little bit too generous. I wanted to take a step back and re-record. So this is a video that's going to be recorded after even more thought into it, not just an immediate first impressions. This is me after talking things through with more content creators. And honestly, I'm going to say I'm a little bit conflicted. There were some things about his actual multipliers and his skills that really jumped out to me as being amazing. But then when you actually put that on paper and do the math, it's not as amazing as it seems. And while there's potential for some big damage along with support in this case, like some of our support heroes that are like our favorites, he would be extremely stat heavy to make that happen. So let's talk about it all. First of all right, Sage of Shadowdell, Elminster Umar. Here we are. So base stats 3200, 1000 HP, almost 1300 defense, and almost 1300 attack with a base of 40 for enlightenment. Alright. He does bring an enlightenment aura, which is certainly well added for his kit. It's also great for other heroes that he might have in the same team, like Adolphus. You could pair him with Adolphus. That would be a great pairing, and it would give Adolphus 60 enlightenment as well. So that's an interesting thing to think about. And there's a lot of heroes that he could be potentially paired with that scale with enlightenment, depending on the season and the synergy. So think about maybe next season if it's Fire and Radiant, which I think it should be next season. Acelia or someone, right? Or Catherine as other support. Acelia as a tank and healer. She scales off of enlightenment. Maybe that would really come in handy for her and her heals, for example. So this is a decent aura. I'm pretty happy with that. It is in all battles. All right, let's go on to the passive. Now, I think this is his weakest point of his kit. For each debuff on an enemy, the hero gains 10 resistance, up to 10 stacks. So, as there's not debuffs on the enemy, you do lose those stacks. So I did see content creators posting in our chats about the fact that he doesn't keep those stats. So it's not like you can just gain 100 resistance for the character and he has that the whole battle. You actually lose them. And it's not like this passive as a support hero is helping anyone else either. So I kind of feel like this passive is really weak. I don't like it at all. And at first glance, I was like, oh, well, there are places we need resistance. Like if he is the one person in the back line of an ancient battlefield battle, he'll be the person to get the stun, so you need resistance. So, okay, maybe you could put this on him if you know you're going to have lots of buffs on the enemy. But I don't know, like, I don't love it. Because up to 10 stacks. If he's with, okay, so back to his aura. If he's with a poison team or a burn team, I feel like he is kind of made to be the support to a burn team because the burns scale with enlightenment, the actual burn themselves, right? That's good. So if he's with a burn team and we've got stacks of burn on people, he's probably going to keep up the resistance pretty well. When the synergy changes to where it's poison and fire again, that is a whole nother thing too, and that maybe with poison debuff heroes, again, enlightenment scales really well with them, and stacks of debuffs do as well. So this is something to consider, that he does have some good synergy based on the aura and the passive with burn heroes, with poison heroes. So it just depends on the season. But because of his kit, which we're going to get into, I really wish this passive was something related to his accuracy. making him have a lower need for accuracy because he's going to be very stat hungry. But let's go into his battle skill. So the battle skill grants 12% targets max HP and 3000% enlightenment shields to the hero and surrounding allies for 5 seconds and control immunity for 5 seconds. So this is really cool. The only problem is it's going to limit his use based on its pattern, based on that tile configuration, right? So everyone has to be around him, which means he can't be shoved back in a corner, not taking damage like a lot of the boss fights we do, or something like Grave of Venom. Like, you have to spread people out. You're not bunching them all together. So people are just not going to benefit the same. For control immunity's sake, this would have to be something where maybe he is protecting the tank or the melee damage dealers in a Chaos Shadow or Chief Challenge boss fight against an enemy that does control effects. Or maybe in arena as well. But again, this forces you to group people together, which makes you more vulnerable for certain attacks. So I think the pattern is not ideal. While the shield itself is great. 5-second initial recharge. So 8 seconds with the books for the regular recharge time for a 5-second shield, right? Not so bad. You put some skill haste on him, he's going to be great. He's going to keep popping some shields, but it really limits your configuration. In some cases, it's going to be fine. It's going to be amazing. Shields and attack penalty and some damage. Okay, maybe he'll be okay even for Vortex, depending on your team and your synergy, what season it is. So that could be okay for this pattern, but I don't like it. I find it limiting. But I think it's a good shield, and it's a good, it's going to be able to allow you to keep up shields more often than someone like Adolphus because it's on a battle skill, and you could really pump up the skill haste and just make him keep popping shields pretty consistently. But I guess keep in mind that this is just, the skill range is weird, but it's okay, but it's weird. The other thing, I guess I would say that with this shield idea in mind and how often he's going to keep them up, I would say pairing him with Adolphus versus replacing him with Adolphus, or Adolphus replacing him, whatever you want to, yeah. Or sorry, other way around. They might actually just pair really well together because with Adolphus, you have the shield, excess shields are converted into healing. So with all these shields going on, you probably can pair them pretty well. The only thing I think is this season he's pretty strong, but next season, if he's with Radiant and you do have a Garius with a Gatekeeper staff, do you really need him for his shields? Probably not. So I feel like that's going to limit his use in a lot of content because we're already going to have a very strong shield hero. Now, not everybody has a Garius and a Gatekeeper staff, so at least this is going to be a free attainable hero that people can get along with his artifact that can be really strong as a shield hero. So there's potential there. I think it's a solid battle skill. I just wish that the board wasn't so restricted, I guess. And then his ultimate. His ultimate is also solid. Like, I think overall that's the best term. I think his kit, period, is a solid kit, really. With the inspirations in mind as well, which we will also talk about. But it's a difficult kit. It's stat hungry. It's like a burn hero. It's like a poison hero. So here we are. 710% attack and 5,000 enlightenment fire damage. On paper, that sounds amazing. But do the math. Let's say you get really lucky. Or like, what's the best case scenario with his artifact? You're going to have like 400% enlightenment plus accuracy plus attack. Like, you're not going to have the best stats of everything. If you just do some basic true damage type math and do like 400 enlightenment times 5,000, that's 2 million damage, right? All right, what would 700% attack be with a typical strong attack build? Let's say you have 4,000 attack on someone. That's 2.8 million. But are you going to have both? Are you going to have 4,000 attack and 400 enlightenment and accuracy and like and oh wait, crit rate and crit damage to actually smack on top of it. You're not. Like, so when you look at it that way, it's not as exciting. You'd almost just rather have someone, you know, like say someone you know, like this is great. Like a 900% attack hit on the ultimate with someone who's a little bit better for damage. That's with like say 4,000 attack is 3,600. Versus trying to pump out crazy amounts of enlightenment with the 5,000 attack, which is not as exciting as it sounds. That's only 2.2. Like, it's just, it doesn't really add up as much as you think it will. So I think a more realistic build would probably be like 250 enlightenment, maybe 300 enlightenment times 5,000. Great. Only 1.5. When you look at the way that these compare to the other damage numbers, it's not as much as it sounds. So I just kind of wanted to, I guess, talk through that for what would be a more relatable build. It's okay, but by the time you get enlightenment, by the time you get attack, by the time you get accuracy to land the debuffs, where are you getting the ability? Where are you getting the stats? Where are you getting the pieces to also get crit rate and crit damage as well? It's kind of like poisons where you just need all the things. So with top tier gear, really lucky rolls on things and trying to get all the things, can he potentially smack? Yeah, I think he has great potential to smack if you can really stack up the attack and enlightenment both on top of the crit rate and crit damage. Then you might have to sacrifice the accuracy and not place attack penalty because you want him to actually do damage. Because you definitely want enlightenment if you want him for shields, right? So there's also that. There's also the reality of not caring about his damage, right? And just looking at him as a support hero. You use him for the shields, use him for the attack penalty, maybe accuracy penalty debuffs. And then anything you can possibly get for sake of damage is just a little bit of bonus. Maybe that's more the best way to look at him, like using someone like Yola or Irina or someone that is your attack penalty on the ultimate consistent placer, but also brings some decent damage with them, right? So at least there is that. But it's the reality is, it's not just something simple where it's like, okay, so attack accuracy, crit rate, crit damage, basic build. Shields on attack. No, it's on enlightenment as well. So there is that other stat added in that does make for a much more complicated build. So he has amazing potential, but I don't think the average player is going to be able to maximize him to be both a hybrid, to be like a hybrid character that's support and damage. I think you kind of got to choose one or the other, which can be fine. You could ignore all the support. You could go pure damage and just use him for his damage and go crazy enlightenment. Well, I guess that you don't really need that for the battle skill if you're not caring if you only want him for damage and you just want to use this. I don't know, or damage plus accuracy. Just think of him like the attack penalty hero with damage. You could kind of ignore the shield part of things. I don't know. It's a mixture, and there's options, but that's why I kind of wanted to talk through it so you guys could really see the different angles of using this character. I don't think it's going to be very easy to build him unless you get... Well, for one, you're definitely going to want the artifact. We'll talk about that, I guess, after, but the inspirations. So, I'm torn on the inspirations for this hero because it's, again, complicated. So, I feel like if you have all of his inspirations, obviously he's going to be a lot easier to build. You get the Awaken or Inspiration 5 ignores 35% of the target's resistance. Okay, so suddenly you need a lot less accuracy. That could be amazing to make him actually be able to be a damage dealer at the same time as a support hero. I'm confused at why they have HP plus 30% as a inspiration. The Inspiration 4 makes no sense. Kind of like the passive with resistance making no sense. this guy is about placing debuffs and shields and then damage. And then the passive is about resistance. It just doesn't really flow. And same thing here. The HP doesn't really flow. We don't need extra HP. We get that just by getting the basis here with HP, defense, and attack. This should be something that actually helps him overall. Maybe attack. Or maybe this is the big attack. Or maybe this is crit rate, crit damage. Give us a reason to try to make him smack as well. I don't know. But I really don't like this Inspiration 4. But I love the Inspiration 5 because that really makes him excuse me, more viable to be able to handle doing all the things. Of course, the Inspiration 3 is solid with a plus 60 for Enlightenment. That's great. This guy definitely needs Enlightenment if you want the shields. And if you want to do some damage, it's going to certainly be helpful to have the Enlightenment as well. But okay, Inspiration 2, when the hero's HP is below 60%, heals the hero by 1% max HP per second. So I guess this, with this HP added to this, it's going to help keep him alive. But it's not exactly making him the best support hero for others. It's just a selfish help. When he's not even a tank that should be on the front lines, like something like this formation would ask for. It's a little bit quirky. And same thing here. Hero takes less crit damage. So I think if anything, maybe he's meant to be used in arena more so than PvE. And that's part of the consideration of the quirky formation here and some of the damage mitigation and stat boosting effects here as well. So that's, I think maybe he's a little bit more PvP consideration than PvE when you actually come down to it. But the Chaos Shadow type bosses, those event bosses, we don't know what they're going to be. So maybe next season he'll actually be perfect. Who knows? But if next season is Fire and Radiant, I don't know. I think it's a quirky one. There's going to be not a lot of attack penalty, to be fair, with AoE that are not legendaries. So if you're lacking the legendaries that place AoE attack penalty, plus bring more to the table, he is going to be really great next season. But it depends on who you have, and I don't know. I'm not as excited as I was when I first read the kit and saw this big number that just sticker shocks you. I think it's a little bit of a trap. I think he's like, oh, he's gonna smack, and he's gonna be support, and he's gonna do this. But really, 90% of players are not gonna have the gear to pull off that kind of thing. Or you're gonna really need to get his inspirations if you want to pull off making him good at everything. So then there's the debate, right? The debate is, do you pull for the inspirations? Is it really worth it? And that's where I'm having my own personal debate, honestly. So I obviously am going to get one copy of him at the very least. I don't care about 2 copies taking less crit damage. Whatever. I'm probably not even going to use them in arena. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I don't really care about the Inspiration 2 either, but maybe the Inspiration 3, that Enlightenment boost, I really like. And I like the Inspiration 5. And obviously the overall stat boosts are helpful too, but it's not game breaking until you get to the 5, where it allows you to build him a lot easier with how stat heavy he actually is. And just a quick note, guys, remember I always have people ask about Enlightenment or accuracy or whatever. You can always click here if you want to know what's this deal with Enlightenment, what does it do? There's information here about that. But don't be confused. Just because something has Enlightenment and the damage scales with Enlightenment, and they mentioned derivative damage, if he's not dealing derivative damage, it can still crit. So he does need, if you want him to do damage, he does need crit rate, crit damage, attack, and or Enlightenment. So keep that in mind for building him. But let's head on over to the event. Let's take a look at this special artifact. Let's see, where the hell is it? Token shop. So we have this event, this here. It does look like, it's kind of confusing because it says it's an exclusive artifact in some of the descriptions of things, but it doesn't say that when you, like, here. I think this can be used by other heroes. If not, they need to edit it because it doesn't say the exclusive thing like the other exclusives say. I mean, it's obviously by Elminster, it's about Elminster, but I think other people can use this. The problem is this artifact costs as much as a duplicate of the hero. So with that in mind, you're gonna, if you want to get 2 copies of the hero, or more so 1 copy of the hero, 1 copy of the artifact, you're losing out on a potential inspiration as well along the way. So if you wanted to max him out, you'd need 7 copy equivalent of him, and that will be like 200 summons, and that's just not realistic for most people. But the artifact is great, and obviously this artifact is amazing to really boost that enlightenment stat for him. And if you did get his inspirations with the heal based on HP, he's going to keep himself alive pretty well with those inspirations, and with this in mind too. But the shield effect granted by the wearer is increased by up to 25%, and its duration extended by 30%. So with the combination of this in mind, I think most people overall, the go-to choice is probably going to be get 1 copy of the hero, get 1 copy, and then get the artifact. And that's where a lot of people will probably stop, because if you want to go all in and get all of his inspirations, again, it's probably going to be, and plus the artifact, I would predict about 200 summons based on what I did last season for Dristo Erden, and that's just not realistic for most people. But if you're willing to do that, do you have potential to make this a really great hybrid character? Yeah, so I do think his kit is solid for the different roles he can play. And I do think he has more endgame viability with the Krakens that want to go crazy, or someone like me that really did want to max out all the inspirations for all these characters, although I don't think it's something I'm gonna do this time around. I don't know, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you think. I feel like I would like him a lot more if they would change his passive. It just doesn't flow with the rest of his kit. It doesn't make sense. We want to make him easier to get stats on if he's going to be so stat hungry, to be a DPS hybrid with support, or you just have to accept him one way or the other. But as someone who is support, he feels a little selfish with his passive and some of his inspirations. So it's not the most OP kit ever, which is probably a good thing at the end of the day. We don't want him to be necessary and game breaking, especially with broken inspirations that make him, that kind of divide between the free to play versus the pay to win. But I wish he was a little bit better, just a little bit. That's my take here. Let me know what you think. Thank you guys for watching. I will be streaming live when the event goes live, and I will do some summons, of course, as well. So we'll see how lucky we get. If you get lucky and you get some copies of the hero directly, that might change your opinion on how much you want to pull for. But I think for me, I'm just gonna get 1 copy of the hero, get 1 copy of the artifact, and I'm probably gonna try to stop there. Although who knows, I might be tempted for more.